Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah and I talk a lot about sex online. And so I thought I would do a spin on this trend that was happening last year where people asked for their audience's assumptions about them and then either confirmed or denied them. And so I thought I would ask for your sexual assumptions about me. So anything that you think about my sex life, my current and past relationships, and I'm gonna do some confirming and denying. And yes, I'm wearing little ears. Are they a sex thing? Who knows? Actually, I'm filming a Depop haul after this video, which will now be live on the More Hannah channel, and I just felt like wearing them for this video. So I asked for your assumptions on my Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, you should really do that, and then you can get involved in the videos. Should we just dive in? I'm a little bit nervous about this. I often talk about sex and relationships more broadly than my personal life. I occasionally delve into some personal information as and when I see fit, but this is just going to be all about my personal life, and I'm like, but it's fine. I will only share things with you that I feel comfortable sharing. We're just going to kick things right off. Tit jobs. And the answer to that is yes. Yes to tit jobs. You're not as kinky as the internet thinks you are. First of all, how kinky does the internet think I am? We're already making an assumption here. But probably in general, no. I think I've said this before online. I'm fairly vanilla, at least in the grand spectrum of BDSM. I'm definitely in the vanilla camp, but maybe on the kinkier side of vanilla. Who knows? You are always the one to bring out the sex toys. Yes, most of the time in my relationships, I've been the one to be like, I have some sex toys. And I introduced Dan to Tenga, who have lots of toys for penises. So that's been a good time. You are into pegging. I am into the idea of pegging. That you've had a lot of sex and you wanked from an early age. I don't know what we count as a lot of sex. I've had a fair amount of sex, but no to wanked from an early age. I was a late bloomer in that category and actually talked about it with Ruby Rare in an episode of my podcast Doing It. Both of us had our first orgasms at 20, 21 years old, and we talked all about how that made us feel and what actually were the circumstances of having that first orgasm. So would highly recommend listening to that to find out more. You and your partner have good communication. Yes, I think we have great communication, but we have been together for 3 years now, and it's hard work. You have to work at it from the get-go, and we have good communication now because we put in the groundwork at the beginning, but it's still difficult every now and then that something might come up that you struggle to talk about. But I find communicating about communicating a really good thing to do. So having this meta communication of okay, how often do you want to talk about things, and how do you want to talk about them, face to face, over email? What kind of communicator are you? So knowing that about your partner is very handy. You and Dan have discussed an open type relationship and are low-key interested, ? So we are monogamous and we have discussed it, but very much in the theory, not in practice. Neither of us are interested in an open relationship at the moment, but one of the things that I think is really important is leaving the space for those kinds of conversations to be able to happen in the future. We're both very realistic, and we know that what we want out of a relationship and what we need out of a relationship may change over time. So we have allowed the space for that topic to be brought up, so that if in 10 years time or whatever, one of us is like, oh, I kind of want to sleep with other people, then it doesn't feel as daunting, fingers crossed, to bring that up, because that can be a really tricky thing if you've never had discussions about it in your relationship before, to suddenly be like, oh, hey, partner of 20 years, I think I want to have sex with other people. That can be really daunting if you've never talked about it before. So we've talked about it very much in theory and just hey, the dialogue door is open if you ever want to talk about that topic. So kind of laying a very non-judgmental groundwork. But we've both been very open about the fact that right now, not interested in that at all. You still masturbate as much as you did when single. Before I confirm or deny this, I just like to say that one of the biggest misconceptions about masturbation is that it is spelt with an E. It is actually spelt with a U. So this is not attacking this person who said this. It is a common mistake that a lot of people make, but masturbation is masturbation, not masturbation. Does that make any sense? Anyway, I probably do. I don't really think my masturbation habits changed all that much from being in a relationship, but I do go through phases of masturbation in general. Like sometimes it'll be every day. Sometimes like I'll be like, oh, I've not masturbated in a few weeks. Like, you know, it's just how I feel. You've had many one-night stands. Yes, I have had a fair few one-night stands. Some have been really great. Others have just been a bit meh. They've all been fine. Don't regret them. It's all good. Your first time was planned. So it was planned in the sense that me and my boyfriend talked about the fact that we were ready to have sex for the first time, but the actual time that it happened was not planned. So we talked about it, and so we just kind of knew any day now, just whenever the moment feels right, and then it happened. I think if I'd actually planned like this day at this time, we're going to have sex for the first time, that amount of pressure I think would have freaked me out a little bit, because then there were all of these expectations, whereas like we'd had the conversation, we knew that we were ready to have sex, and then we just kind of like let it happen naturally. So like the first few times hanging out after we'd been like, yeah, we're ready, like we still didn't have sex. It was just like, you know. You were scared of commitment in your previous relationships. So yes, kind of. I had a relationship that ended when I was 19, and after that I was like a no commitment zone for like a good few years after that. Dated a lot of people, and very much what I think of as my fear of commitment meant that none of them really developed into anything more serious, or I just didn't like them enough. Who knows? You like lube. I don't just like lube, I often need it, and there is no shame in that. Had sex with YouTubers. So yes, but that is no secret. At least one of them, me and him made a video together that is still on my channel after we broke up, talking about our relationship. So that's no secret, but yes, there have been others. You have never been sad about breakups. No, I've been so sad over breakups, specifically the ones where it wasn't my choice. As you would be. Oh yeah, I have had my heart fully broken many times. You talk a lot during sex. Yes, I'm a talker. That since you've had your ops and health problems, your sex life has changed. I think it has slightly. I think my sex drive is lower. My body confidence, it plummeted at the time, but you know, been building it back up, so it's like in a good place now. But yeah, it's definitely had an impact. I'd 100% assume that you have never had sex with a woman sober, and you are 100% right. Maybe you don't fall in love too easily. I think I've been in love 3 times, but I've been in infatuation countless, numerous times. I get obsessive, and I fall into those situations far too easily. Love, not so much, but holy shit. But it's those infatuation ones that screw you up the most, I swear to God. In the past, you have been more often the dumper rather than the dumpee. Great callback to the sex survey that was the last video. Yes, I more often than not have been the dumper, I believe, but we all remember being the dumpee most of the time. I don't know, I feel like I'm quite evenly split, but on the edge of dumper. You're not afraid to tell people what you like. No, yes and no. It depends on the person. With Dan, my partner now, not afraid at all, because we have built that trust and that communication. Whereas like if it's a new partner, then yeah, you're always going to be a little bit scared at first. But I find that like once you just kind of like break down that barrier, like the floodgates open and communication can be a lot easier. You make the decisions, Dan makes the plans. I don't know if this is a sex thing, But I'm just going to take this just to mean our life and relationship in general. But no, I make the decisions and I make the plans. Judging from your story from Cameron, I'm guessing you like having outdoor/public sex. So this is referring to my personalized smut story from Cameron Moore, which I read out in a mini-sode of Doing It, which I'll make sure is linked in the description if anyone is curious. So I like the idea of it. So that's why she incorporated that into my smut story, because it's like a fantasy, but in reality, maybe not. Dan is your first long-term partner. You weren't interested in settling down before. I don't know about not interested in settling down, but I definitely wasn't interested in settling down with any of the people that I was dating before because, well, they didn't work out. But I have had long-term relationships before, but they were a long time ago. So I had a 1.5-year relationship between like 17 and 19. And then I was single and just dating for like 6 years. And now with Dan, we're together 3 years. So it is my longest relationship. Although they are big, your tits are not your favorite part about yourself. True. You stay friends with your exes. Oh my God. I had a realization about this recently because I used to be that girl who would just be like, I'm friends with most of my exes. Yeah, me and my exes stay friends. I'm on really good terms with all of my exes. No judgment if that's you, but I'm judging myself. But that was me for a really long time. And then I had this realization recently of like, oh, I'm not friends with any of my exes. None of my exes are like important people in my life right now. I'm on good terms with most of them. Like there might be the occasional Facebook message or WhatsApp or like seeing them at parties or social occasions, and it's civil and it's fine, and but there isn't a friendship there in the sense that I would talk to them on a regular basis or like make plans to hang out with them one-on-one. And I was like, I'm not friends with any of my exes. This was a cornerstone of my identity as a cool girl, and now I'm not. And I think one of the things that has to do with is that I'm now in a long-term serious relationship. Like I do think that has something to do with it. And my other theory, which is kind of related to that, is that actually I stayed friends with a lot of my exes. And by exes, I mean ex-boyfriends, but also ex-flings and love interests and situationships and all of that stuff, like the whole umbrella of people that I dated or was sexual with at some point. So I realized that I stayed friends with a lot of them and in contact with after whatever we had ended, because there was always the possibility that it would happen again. Like either I still kind of fancied them, or our friendship was very flirty, or maybe they were also potentially interested in something happening again. Not in the sense that we would pursue it, but like if something were to happen, if the stars aligned and the cards were right, then something might have happened. And it was like, I don't know, I always felt like it was on the table. There was like the sexual potential, but now that sexual potential is gone because I'm in a relationship, and a monogamous relationship, and I'm not interested anymore. So my theory is that my friendships with exes was based on a potential sexual connection again, or just even the idea of it, like the friendship thriving on that space that we were holding, that was like, ooh, something could happen here, but probably not, but the friendship is thriving on that. Like that's what it's eating to stay alive. This is my theory. I don't know. I would be interested if anyone else was kind of like me and was always friends with exes and then suddenly found themselves not and was like, huh? And if this resonates with you. You're bummed, great pun, that butt stuff is off the table. I am a little bit. So no one made this assumption, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. Never had anal sex, have never been interested in it. But then with Dan kind of like, was like, oh, maybe that would be something that I'd be into. And then all my health stuff kicked off, and it's just like, oh, choice has now been taken away from me. But I don't really see it as like a huge loss, because I was never really into it before, but it has taken away my ability to experiment with that. But whatever. You win some, you lose some. You tell your partners if you don't orgasm. Yes, I have never faked an orgasm, and I don't know how or why I was that kind of person. Because I started having sex when I was 16, but then I didn't have an orgasm until I was 20. So in these very formative, often not very confident sexual years, I was being very open and honest about the fact that I was not having orgasms. It did cause a lot of partners to be like, I will take it upon myself. My magic penis will make you come. And then that just like added so much more pressure. And it's like, no, please. They're like, you are my personal project, which was not great. But yeah, never faked an orgasm. I knew that that was a thing that a lot of people did because that's what magazines told me. But for some reason, I just never thought about doing it myself. It just seemed counterproductive. Okay, well, thank you so much for diving into these personal things with me. I hope that I have satisfied some of your curiosity. As this video is about assumptions, I just wanted to mention the fact that when it comes to sex, we make a lot of assumptions about other people. We make assumptions about what they may or may not be into based on how they look, their age, their sexuality, their past, or like what we assume to be their past experiences. And the only way you can know for sure what someone likes, what someone is into, what experiences someone has had is if you ask them. So please don't make assumptions about your sexual partners. Communicate with them, ask them what they're into, tell them what you're into, communicate with your partners about what you want out of a relationship. You know, it's so important because as we have seen, making assumptions, you know, sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it really wrong. So yeah, that's my little message to you. Thanks for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear your thoughts on some of the things that we discussed in the comments, and make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.